Alright guys, I am back again with another deck profile for Cardfight Vanguard Deer Days on Nintendo Switch. This time we got version 2 of my Keter Sanctuary Phantom Blaster Overlord deck. So version 2, everything through the additional special set, so through a fraction of the booster set 11. And this deck has again received a minor upgrade, but a very nice one. Mainly a new promo card that can allow the deck to perform up to 4 drive checks in one turn, giving your rearguard blaster Dark the ability to do drive checks as well. So we will be going through the deck real fast, and then we'll show it off in one card fight. So starting first with the Ride deck, we have our Grade 0 starter, which is Full Bow. So when it's rolled upon, if you want second, draw a card. Same old starter skill. Next up, for the Grade 1, we have Blaster Javelin. So he has his auto ability that says when this unit is rolled upon by Blaster Dark, you reveal the top card of your deck, call it to rearguard circle as rest if it is a unit card, and discard it if it isn't. And then he also has his continuous ability when he is on rearguard circle that says during your turn, if you have a Vanguard with Blaster in its card name, this unit gets power plus 2,000. So this rearguard ability actually is used because we are running 3 additional copies of him in the main deck as well. So he will be a 10k booster on your board. Your Vanguard will always have Blaster in its name. And as for his first ability, when you ride over top of him with Blaster Dark, you just get to Superior Call, the top card of your deck, which it doesn't really matter what you call off of this, because whatever you call, it's just going to get retired to pay for Blaster Dark's cost. So it doesn't matter if you get a good rearguard out of it or not. The only way it can fail is if you reveal an order card, which the only order we're running in the deck is Sanctitude, which if you're that worried about it, you could just replace that with a 4th regular Perfect Guard. So should always just give you a free unit on board to pay for Blaster Dark's cost. So next up, for the Grade 2, we of course have Blaster Dark. So its auto ability says when this unit is placed on Vanguard or rearguard circle, you can counterblast one and retire another rearguard. To choose one of your opponent's rearguards, retire it, and this unit gets drive plus 1 until end of turn. So you ride into him and counterblast and retire the thing that you called off of Blaster Javelin in order to potentially pick off one of your opponent's rearguards if they have anything on their board, and also gain an extra drive check. So you will get Twin Drive on turn 2 with this card's ability. And again, we are running him in the main deck, so if you call him to rearguard, either just normal calling from your hand or superior calling off of Phantom Blaster Overlord's ability, you can still use this skill to pick off one of your opponent's rearguards, and potentially gain that drive check still as well, since we have a way to give him the ability to do drive checks while he's on your rearguard circle now. So a very nice ability. And he also has a continuous skill when you do call him to rearguard that says during your turn, if your rearguard was retired this turn, this unit gets power plus 5,000. So this ability should pretty much always be active for him, since we're retiring one of our rearguards in one fashion or another pretty much every turn. So he should be at a 15k base at all times. So lastly, for the Grade 3, we have Phantom Blaster Overlord. So he has a continuous ability that says if your soul has a Phantom Blaster Dragon, this unit gets critical plus 1. So obviously we're riding directly into this and not cross-riding, so we had to get Phantom Blaster Dragon from our hand into our soul, which we can do using Nemen's skill. So you do want to try to do that as soon as possible. Now, it's not a make or break thing for this deck, since all it gives you is that extra crit pressure. But of course having that is a good thing, so you do want to try to get that set up if you can. And then he also has his auto ability that says when this unit attacks, you can retire 2 of your rearguards to choose a Blaster Dark from your soul or drop, call it to rearguard circle, and if your opponent's Vanguard is Grade 3 or greater, that called unit and this unit gets power plus 10,000 until end of turn. So this ability does give you your 4th attack every turn, letting you call out a Blaster Dark either from your soul or your drop. So you can call out the one from your ride deck if you haven't drawn into any other copies. Or if, you know, it's left your field by whatever reason, you can call it directly from the drop. Which means you can safely use it to pay a Soul Blast cost, and then call it from the drop. It's actually better to call it from the drop, because since that way you don't use up any resources for it. But yeah, it gives you your extra attack. You do have to retire 2 rear guards in order to do this, but you get 1 card back onto your board, so that is a -1 normally. But we do have a card in this deck now that can count as 2 rear guards when you retire it. So if you do that, it becomes a ±0. You gain the extra attack, and of course you can power up both your Vanguard and that rear guard attack if your opponent is a grade 3. So overall a pretty simple effect, but a pretty cool Vanguard altogether. So that is the ride deck. Moving on to the main deck. First off, for the grade 3s, we of course have our 3 additional Persona Ride copies of Phantom Blaster Overlord, the secret rare alternate art, looking very, very cool. Next we have 4 copies of Phantom Blaster Dragon. So both his abilities only work on Vanguard Circle, and you never ride into him, so I'm not even going to go through all these abilities. His only purpose in this deck is to be fodder that you shove into your soul for the name, in order to give PBO that extra critical. So yeah, he has been reduced to just fodder for this deck, but that's all he's here for. So that is all the grade 3s. Moving on to the grade 2s. First off, we do have our 2 additional copies of Blaster Dark. It is obviously a vital combo piece for the deck, since you have to specifically call him off a PBO skill. So I do like running some extra copies in case the one from your ride deck ends up getting like bound or bottom decked or something and you can't get it back. Having some extras as a backup can be very helpful. So next up we have 4 copies of Skull Witch Nemen. So she has her continuous ability that says during your turn, if you have a Vanguard with Blaster in its card name, this unit gets power plus 5,000. So as you can see, she is a 5k base, so this just brings her up to the standard 10. But it will always be active, because your Vanguard will always have Blaster in its name. And then she has her auto ability that says when this unit is placed on Rearguard Circle, if your Vanguard's clan is only Shadow Paladin, you can counterblast 1 and put a card from your hand into your soul, and draw 2 cards. So this is a very important skill. It is a counterblast 1 for a +1, and it is also the only way for us to get Phantom Blaster Dragon into our soul. So hopefully you draw into a copy of him and a copy of her, and you can just call Nemen, use her skill, shove PBD into the soul, draw a card to replace him, and an additional card as well. So counterblast 1 for a +1 helps build up your hand, gets key pieces into your soul. If you already have a PBD in your soul, you can just add anything you want just to get that extra soul resource and still get the draws out of it as well. So overall, a very important card for the deck that is vanilla after you use that skill, so she can also make for some decent, retiring fodder to pay for some of your retiring costs. So next we have 4 copies of Knight of Severity Cleodna? I probably pronounced that wrong, but that's what I'm going with. So anyway, she has a continuous ability that says when this unit would be retired for the cost of the ability of your Vanguard with Blaster in its card name, it may be regarded as retiring 2 units. So this card alone can pay the entire retiring cost for PBO's ability, helping preserve your card advantage in that situation. And on top of that, it also will trigger her second auto ability that says when this unit is retired by the ability of your Vanguard with Blaster in its card name, if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, you choose a Blaster Dark from your rearguard circles, and it gets a new auto ability until end of turn that says once per turn when this unit attacks, you can discard a card from your hand, and this unit performs drive checks until end of that battle, and at the end of that battle, you retire this unit. So this is definitely the most important new card in this deck, granting an ability to your Blaster Dark that will let him perform drive checks on his attack, which combos very nicely with his own ability that can increase his drive. So if you do the full combo with this, you will be able to get a twin drive off your Vanguard and a twin drive off of Blaster Dark's ability. So the way you want to do this is you want to attack with Cleodna boosted by whoever, ideally, and then you can attack with your Vanguard, retire Cleodna to pay for his cost, and Superior Call Blaster Dark either from your soul or drop. Then you can grant Blaster Dark the ability from Cleodna, and use Blaster Dark skill to retire the unit that boosted Cleodna since it'll already be at rest. So you can retire it, Blaster Dark will gain the extra drive check. So then when you attack with Blaster Dark, then you can discard a card from your hand and get Twin Drive on his attack. Now, overall, this entire combo will result in it being a -1, since at the end of that battle you do have to retire that Blaster Dark. But overall, that might actually help you, since Blaster Dark, generally speaking, is a lot safer in the drop zone than it is on your board, especially playing against, certain control decks your opponent may have. So getting him into a safer location may actually be more beneficial to you, even though it is a -1 overall. And of course you get those 4 trigger chances, so you are more likely to check into some triggers that turn, and your attacks have a lot more pressure on them as well, since you can scare your opponent into possibly getting some crits. So yeah, definitely the biggest addition to this deck, and an absolute 4 of. So lastly, for the grade 2s, we have 3 copies of Knight of Inheritance Emmeline. So she has 2 auto abilities. First one says when this unit is placed on rearguard circle from hand, you can Soul Blast 1 to look at the top 5 cards of your deck. Choose up to 1 unit card with Blaster in its card name from among them, call it to rearguard circle, or reveal it and put it into your hand, and shuffle your deck. And if you put a card into your hand, you choose a card from your hand and discard it. So it's a top 5 check to find any Blaster unit. So we have extra copies of Blaster Dark and Blaster Javelin in the main deck, as well as, of course, our entire grade 3 lineup. So if you find Javelin or Dark, you can call it to your rearguard circle and help build up your board. Or if you find either PBD or PBO, you can add it to your hand. Now if you add it to your hand, you do have to discard 1, so it ends up being a ±0. But, it can get a key combo piece into your hand that can help you dig for those PBDs if you want to get it into your soul with Nemen's skill. So, still a pretty useful ability. Now, it is possible that it whiffs since it is just a top 5 check, in which case you do waste a soul. But this deck isn't really all that tight on soul, especially with Nemen, refilling it constantly. So, pretty good skill overall. And she also has her second auto ability that says when your unit with Blaster and its card name attacks, this unit gets power plus 5,000 until end of turn. So this should be guaranteed to go off at least twice per turn, since you'll be attacking with your Vanguard with Blaster in its name and Blaster Dark that you call off of its skill. So that should be 2 instances of this, putting her to at least a 20k base every turn. So she can be a nice just beat stick for the deck on top of that as well. So very, very nice card. So that is all the grade 2s. Moving on to the grade 1s. First off, we do have our 3 additional copies of Blaster Javelin. Just some more Blaster names in the deck. Also a 10k booster when he's on rearguard. So just a nice, decent card all around. So next up, we have 3 copies of Wayward Therapy Angel. So she has a continuous ability that says this card cannot be ridden and cannot be normal called to rearguard circle from hand. So that is a restrictive ability. As you can see, it's because she's a printed 10k base. So she has higher than normal power, but you can't just normal call her from hand. You have to superior call her using her second ability, her auto skill, that says when this card is discarded from hand during your turn, if your Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, you can Soul Blast 1 and call this card to a back row rearguard circle. So, as far as instances in order to trigger this ability, obviously discarding for the ride deck will work if you discard it for your grade 3 ride, since you have to be at grade 3 for it to trigger. So, you can do it for that early game. Beyond that, you can discard it for the cost of Blaster Dark skill that was granted by Cleodna. Another possibility is if you do find a Blaster off of Emmeline's skill that you want to add to your hand, you can put it in hand and discard Wayward Therapy, and then use her skill to just call her right back. So overall, just a very versatile skill for this deck, helping you maintain your card advantage amongst all the discards that you have to do. So the only other grade 1s we have are our Sentinels. So first off, we have 3 copies of Palladium Zeal Dragon, just your standard Pertaguard, as well as 1 copy of the Blitzorder Elementaria Sanctitude, which you can play without paying the cost if your opponent's Vanguard has triple drive. So that's all the grade 1s. Moving on to the grade 0s, we just have our trigger lineup, which is 7 crits, 4 draws, 4 heals, and 1 over. So starting first with the crit triggers, we have 4 copies of Volition Rigger Dragon, just your vanilla crit. Additionally, we have 3 copies of Blade Feather Dragon. So crit with a skill, at the end of the battle it boosted, you can put it into your soul to choose one of your units, and it gets power plus 2,000 until end of turn. So can be a soul engine. Again, don't really use this skill very much in this deck, since we usually don't need any extra soul. But it can be there if you really need it. If you want to replace this with a vanilla crit, you can. So next for the draws, we have 4 copies of Protection Magic Pro Roby. Draw with a skill. For your opponent's Vanguard's grade 3 or greater, get shield plus 5,000. So you're a 10k shield draw trigger, of course. Then for the heals, we have 4 copies of Knight of Clarion Strings Recula. So just vanilla heal. Of course, if you want to run any of the effect heals, you can do so. And then lastly, for the over trigger, we have 1 copy of Spiritual King of Aquatics, Eidos Faro. So his additional effect lets you choose a card from your drop, put it into your hand, then choose one of your units, and it gets critical plus 1 until end of turn. So grants a crit to any one of your units, effectively an extra crit trigger in the deck, while also letting you grab any card you want back from your drop into your hand. So a free plus 1 can let you grab a perfect guard to reuse it, can let you grab a Persona Ride copy, potentially to cycle it back if you so blast one out of your soul. Can grab anything you want that you have in there. So very, very nice card. So that is the deck. So we will go ahead and have our 1 fight with it. And I think we'll fight Mirai. And we will be going second. As she adds Swayanbu to her hand. Alright, so we'll discard that draw to ride Blaster Javelin. And full bow will let us draw. And we draw our over trigger. So we'll just go ahead and attack.
Vanguard
And we get a crit trigger right off the bat. And we took out 2 of our perfect guards with that. And I'll let that one through. And we get a draw trigger. And we draw a heal, of course. So that needs a trigger to hit, so I'll take the chance and let it through. And she gets a crit trigger, of course. So that's going to put us to 3. Alright, so let's discard. And we'll drop that heal, I think. To ride Blaster Dark. And Blaster Javelin lets us call Phantom Blaster Dragon, who will immediately get retired.
Ability Blast. Greediness Shadow.
And we'll get to take out one of our Travises. We're also gaining a drive. So I'm going to go ahead and call Emmeline. And we'll use her skill to Soul Blast. And we can check the top 5. And we did find a Phantom Blaster Dragon. So we're going to add him to our hand. And we'll have to discard one, so we'll drop one of those Persona Ride copies, I guess. And then we can attack with the Vanguard first, which triggers Emmeline's ability to gain 5k. So then we can attack with Emmeline, and I think I'm actually going to take out a rear guard here. So she armed her shield, so she's probably not going to get both her arms this turn. She got an over trigger from her drop. And then her starter on top of it. Okay then. So there's the AI having a moment. So we'll block that with this crit trigger. And she gets another crit trigger. And that is 2 crit, so I hate to do it, but I'm gonna have to guard with that over trigger already. Because I do not want to go to 5 this soon. Alright, so we will discard Wayward Therapy Angel. To ride Phantom Blaster Overlord. And Wayward Therapy will let us Soul Blast out Blaster Dark, since we can get him right back anyway. So we'll Superior Call Wayward Therapy and put her... we'll put her right there. So let's see, we'll go ahead and call Nemen. And I'm gonna put her over here actually. And use her skill to Counter Blast. And we will shove one of these PBDs into the soul. So our Vanguard gains a crit, and we get to draw 2 cards, which are 2 perfect cards. So then we'll call Cleodna over there. And I'll go ahead and call Blaster Javelin behind Emmeline as well, who gains 2k. So then we're all set up, so we will attack with Cleodna first.
Vanguard.
And she uses Swayambu to block that one. So then we can attack with Overlord. And Emmeline will gain 5k from his attack. And we can use Overlord's ability to retire 2, but we're going to retire Cleodna, who counts as 2. And then we can Superior Call Blaster Dark from the drop zone. And both him and our Vanguard gains 10k.
発動
So then Cleodna's skill gives the new skill to Blaster Dark, and Blaster Dark's own skill will let us counter blast and retire one, so we'll take out Nemen.
我が闇は光を連通すアビリティブラストグリーディネスシャドウ
And now he gains an extra drive, and we can retire our rear guard, so we'll take out our intercept. And she guards for 2 to pass. So she will successfully block. Because we got no triggers on that attack. But now we can attack with Blaster Dark,
ヴァンガードにアタック
which again will power up Emmeline since he has Blaster in his name.
パワープラス
And then Blaster Dark skill granted by Cleodna will let us discard 1, so we will go ahead and we'll drop Wayward
ス
Therapy,
キル発動
who we can then revive with a Soul Blast.
スキル発動
She won't be able to do anything this turn, but we'll have her ready for next turn.
スペリオルコーノーガードドライブ
And
チェ
Blaster
ック
Dark gets Twin Drive.
ドライブチェック
And again, no triggers.
ダメージチェックねクリティカルトリガーよ
But she gets a crit trigger.
パワープラス
And now at the end of that battle, Blaster Dark will retire himself. Which he'd most likely get retired next turn anyway. So then we'll attack with
ヴァン
Emmeline,
ガードにアタック
boosted by Blaster Javelin.
ノーガードだよ
And she lets that one through too.
でも大丈夫ダメージチェック
ターンエンドです
私のターンだよドローペルソナライド
But she does get her Persona Ride.
コールコールだよスキル発動スペリオルコールヴァンガ
But
ー
she
ドに
did
アタ
not
ック
get her second arm equipped. So let's see, we will... I have no triggers in my hand. I just realized that. Then I guess we'll let that one through.
ノーガードダメージチェックヒールトリ
And we get a heal trigger, which we don't get,
パワー
but we do get the power.
ヴァンガードにアタック
And I think I'm gonna perfect guard that one.
スキル発動
And we'll discard PBD.
完全ガー
ドライブチェックよしクリティカルトリガー
And she gets a crit trigger.
パワープラスドライブチェック
And there's our other arm.
ヴァンガードにアタック
So I guess I have to perfect guard this one too, because it's 2 crit.
スキル発動
And let's see, we'll drop Nemen.
完全ガー
ターンエンド
ドスタンドアンドドロー
Alright, so now we can Persona Ride.
混沌なる静寂に叫びし絶望幻すら見られぬ闇暗き闇の力を我ペルソナライド
So then we'll go ahead and call another copy of Cleodna to the front row. And I believe we're ready to go. So we will attack with Cleodna first, boosted by Wayward Therapy
ヴァンガ
Angel.
ードにアタック
スキル発動パワープラス
And she uses Swayonbu and a guard and an intercept to block that.
ガード
So then we'll attack with Phantom Blaster Overlord.
Vanguard にアタック
Which will once again power up Emmeline.
パワー減らす
And then PBO skill will let us retire Clayadna, who again counts as 2.
終わりにしましょ
To revive Blaster Dark from the drop.
うスペリオルコパワー減らすパワー減らす
And give both our units 10k.
スキル発動
So Clayadna once again grants the skill to Blaster Dark, and Blaster Dark skill lets us counter blast, and will retire that Wayward Therapy.
我が闇は光を寄りつつアビリティブラストグリーディネスシャドウ
So he gains an extra drive, and we can retire our rear guard, so we'll take out our front row.
ドライブ
And
チ
she
ェッ
guards with a
ク
lot.
ヒールトリ
But we get a heal trigger, which will not be enough, so I'm going to give that power to Blaster Dark.
パワー減らす
We also don't get that heal.
クリティカルトリ
But we do get a crit as well, so I should have risked it, but we'll give both those to Blaster Dark
クリティ
as
カル
well.
プラスパワー減らす
And she only has one card left in her hand, so we should have her here. So we're going to attack with Blaster Dark for 55,002 crit,
スキル発動
which will power up Emmeline by another
パワー減
5k.
らす
And the skill granted by Clayadna will let us discard, so we'll drop a Blaster Dark
スキル発動
to perform a Twin Drive.
ノーガード
And she's got to let it through.
ドライブチェック
ダメージチェックヒールトリガー
Oh, and she gets a miracle heal, but that was 2 crits, so she needs another one.
ダメージチェック
And she did not get it.
やはり僕の勝ちですね
So we got her with that one. So there you go, that was version 2 of my Phantom Blaster Overlord deck. I do always like this deck. I'm very nostalgic for this deck since I did play PBO back in the day. So anyway, I'll be back soon with more deck profiles. So until then, I guess that's all for this video. So lots of luck to you and yours.